welcome to Men in Transition at MIT-FreshStart.org. My name is Dan Burley, and I'm host of today's video blog. Today, we have our co-founder, Darnell, and a great friend of this ministry, Glenn. And today's question is going to be a difficult one, and something in prison ministry that we run into all the time, and it's forgiveness. Because when men have a hard time forgiving themselves of what they did and what they did to others, that translates into a whole lot of negative behavior. So we're going to tackle the question of forgiveness. How do men in prison, is it possible for them to forgive? And even should they forgive? So we're going to tackle that very delicate question. And I'm going to start with our good friend of this ministry, Glenn. Glenn knows his way around prison. And Glenn, you've been around and seen a lot of men in prison because of the bottled up anger, and maybe due to the people they hurt or the people that hurt them. It expresses itself in a lot of negative ways. So one thing that we learned in prison ministry is one of the ways, first thing to recovery, is to actually start forgiving yourself for what you've done. And as a part of, and you know this, Darnell, and as part of forgiving yourself, forgiving others. So I guess my question to you is that even possible for men in prison to start that road of forgiveness? And what's your take on that, Glenn?
I hope I can intelligently answer that. It's really it's a complicated question. You know, I don't even know if most guys think along the terms of forgiveness because you know,
they just keep the anger.
Well,
and they don't even know that it's related to forgiveness.
You know, the forgiveness is so deep.
Yes.
You know, there may be family. Well, let me say this real quick if I can. After I was released from prison, I was asked to be part of a speaking group at it was like a farm case, lockup style, kids that were from like 10 to 16 years old.
Wow.
First time they'd been in trouble, and it was truancy and maybe smoking weed and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the last one to speak, and listening to everybody else, I had no clue what I was going to say to them. And so as I got up to speak, it just kind of came to me, and it was and I basically said, you guys don't know me, I don't know you, I'm not up here to judge you, you know, I just did 18 years in prison, so please don't look at me like I'm going to sit here and lecture you, you know, I've done about every screw up in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I go, today sitting here, you know, today you have an excuse. You know, you know, today you can probably say that, you know, it was your family life or your friends that got you into trouble, or you did this or you did that. And, you know, I'll accept that today.
Mm-hmm.
I go, but I just want to let you know that there's going to come a day when your excuses aren't going to matter anymore.
Right.
Nobody's going to listen to your excuses.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the chance to change things now in your life, depending on, you know, what path you want to take.
Mm-hmm.
And forgiveness is wrapped up to me in those lines.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm. I mean, you have to, again, the impression I get is that most of us, and particularly incarcerated, keep forgiveness way in the back of they don't see that as an issue until it actually comes up in their face.
Right.
Now they have to deal with who they hurt or who they've been hurt by.
Right. And prison isn't a culture that you go in there and you think about emotions. You may in your silent thoughts as you're laying there at night. And so it's really a manner of showing somebody that there is forgiveness.
Right.
Showing somebody,
someone modeling forgiveness.
Right. Modeling acceptance. You know, understanding without lessening the accountability that somebody needs.
Right.
And you know, most guys don't really know anything about God.
Right.
You know, they don't know. You know, and I'm sorry to kind of nervously stumble around, but it is a really difficult question.
No, it is. It is.
And let me say that I'm very impressed by both of your guys' demeanor. I mean, as we said off camera, it's you know, it needs real men in somebody's life to teach them that you know that you can be a real man. You know, there's nothing wrong with saying, "Excuse me, forgive me, thank you." You know, I love you. You know, our culture teaches that men can't act this way. You know, or you're less of a man or something, and it's completely
and that's
wrong.
a big problem outside of prison, let alone inside.
Right,
prison,
absolutely right. Yeah, it's you know, and most men just do not even think about forgiveness. They feel wounded or whatever. The culture in there breeds kind of ignorance, and it breeds violence, and it gets you on a different path, and you really come out of prison more thinking that you're a gorilla or something, or a mega man, and you know, instead of somebody sitting down and teaching them that, hey, you know, you know, you need to forgive yourself, you need to get past this and realize you made a mistake and grow. But they just need real men.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I'm gonna throw that question over to you, Darnell, because you know what, in our Kairos ministry, and we're involved in you know, a lot of forgiveness type sessions. So yeah, let's get your take on that.
Well, I mean, combined with me, you, Marty, and a lot of Kairos members, we spoke to over 3,000 men, and forgiveness. We have a forgiveness ceremony. I mean, the forgiveness time where we write on a rice paper and we write the people that we want to forgive. Sometimes forgiveness is like how you were saying. It's the most difficult thing because you have so much. You can have so much animosity or anger. And I sat amongst men in level 4 prisons that had so much, you know, how can this person forgive me, or how can I forgive myself for the crimes that I have committed? Especially if they're really harsh crimes at that particular moment. However, I've seen guys feel relieved after having that forgiveness ceremony where we write the people that we want to forgive, and then we put it and it dissolves into water.
So let me ask you that.
Yes, sir.
We write the names of the people we forgive. Is it like instant? I know the water dissolves and we magically say, okay, all that hurt and everything is gone. Is that real? I mean, or is it a process?
You know, it's all about a healing process.
Yes.
And if you like, for me, you know, my core value is I love God, and so forgiveness is huge within my value system. I had a lot of things hurt from me. I mean, I grew up in a single parent household. I've been through a lot of situations as well, and I had to forgive people personally. And still,
did that process happen overnight, or
it didn't happen overnight? And in fact, to be 100% honest, I'm still dealing with some of the forgiveness right now. So you take a post-incarcerated person, and you know, just to answer the question that you're asking, is it's going to take some time to overcome the forgiveness and the healing process. However, if you have people that are supporting you, like how we do in Kairos, it shows that, you know what, we're going to get through this together. And I remember on our monthly reunions, we'll still talk to the guy, to the men, or, you know, residents, and we'll ask them, hey, how are you doing? How are you coping with this? How are you feeling? Are you overcoming some of these trials and tribulations? I think I think we all have.
So you have to actually do the act of saying, even though I don't feel like forgiveness, I'm going to make the act of forgiving. Because when we write those names of people who hurt us, we're actually doing an act. Because I think the problem with forgiveness is we think it's a big feeling. And the act of forgiveness is, I mean, I've been hurt by a lot of people. And the forgiveness is something I have to say in my mind. I forgive, but I don't have that feeling. I still have animosity, So I think we can't mistake the fact that we do need to forgive, because by harboring all that anger, the only person we're hurting is us. The other person isn't even thinking about it. You know, if you got a beef against somebody, well, that person probably doesn't know and probably doesn't care, and it's only hurting you, And by making that act of, we were saying, like in that little ceremony we do, we put it on paper, they're actually doing the act of now forgiving. But the feelings that go behind it take time,
Absolutely.
So
I mean, I write the same names down.
Me too. I do too.
I write your name down.
Yeah, no, all the
No,
time.
no.
I see you smiling because I know my name's on that paper.
I said, you know what? How you spell your last name again?
I'll work it off.
Yeah, we'll work it out. I'm just joking. I'm joking, but no, I think it's a huge thing. It's it's forgiveness is huge in the Bible. It's huge in our
And
hearts.
why is it? Why do we need to forgive? Why?
I believe forgiveness it alleviates that pain and that stress
Right.
that you can have.
Mhm.
I mean, anger. It takes a lot of feelings and emotion to have anger.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so, yeah,
It is.
so
Yeah, it's an overwhelming emotion at times.
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. And having an anger, Glenn, I'm gonna throw this real quick. So having an anger and pent up anger that generally comes from unforgiveness, how does that manifest itself in outside of prison?
Well, easily. I mean, you don't even have to really consciously think about anger to have it affect you in a way that can really lead you down a wrong path when you're trying to do the right thing. First of all, love what Darnell said, and I'm, I don't have a different perspective. I have the same perspective that Darnell spoke of, but I don't have the same way of articulating it because I'm the guy that was in prison, and the only way that I was really able to deal with forgiveness was over time. It wasn't even something consciously I did.
It just happened over
It's
time.
all a part of growing
Right,
up
part of
and
growing,
accepting your wrongs,
Right.
and that really came with stumbling over and over and over. And so I could
Right.
either sit there and just kill myself with guilt and shame and unforgiveness and stuff like that, or I could find ways to solve those
Right.
issues inside my mind.
Right.
I'm a man of God too.
Right.
My moral ground and my ethical thinking anymore is based on the teachings of God, and God is about love and about forgiveness and
Right.
grace and
Right.
mercy and those things.
Very
And
good.
when we talk about those things, it's very hard to talk to somebody that doesn't understand any of that.
Understood.
But
But can we agree that the biggest problem when you want to harbor animosity and not let things go, can we agree that the only person that's hurting is you as the person holding it in, and not the other person?
absolutely.
So if you're holding in bitterness and anger and you think that's hurting the other person, well, no, it's hurting you because that venom's inside you. The other person's going about their business, right?
Right.
You're the one that's being kept down by it.
If I could share one thought,
Yeah.
and then I'll wrap it up. But I'll tell you where it started at in my life.
Mhm.
Was I don't come from a good background with my family or anything like that. Me and my mom just were at odds. My mom was addicted to her own problems, and the first time I went to prison, I mean, I just sat there and I blamed my mom for everything.
Mhm.
And almost like I told the kids inside that meeting, I really felt justified in doing that.
Makes you feel good.
yeah,
Makes you feel good. Huh?
it does. But honestly, I mean, I felt justified in that. I
Right.
didn't have the chances. I
Right.
was taken out of
Right.
school,
Right.
and by the time that I started getting into drugs and alcohol, I was already too far gone to care about much or listen to anybody. So when I did that, right, and when I got out of prison, I went right back to my same lifestyle, and I ended up back in there again.
Right.
And the interesting thing is as I sat in there, I started to go back to that mindset. Well, it was my mom's fault,
Mhm.
and maybe it was God's way of getting me on at least a different thinking path. At that time, I realized that no, I could blame her. I could use the excuse the first time.
Right.
She
It's
had
good.
nothing-
It's
yeah.
good in the short run because it gives you a good feeling that it's not you. I'm where I'm at because of somebody else. It feels good in the short run, but in the long run, it's detrimental.
Well, it is. It's detrimental though if you make a lifestyle out
You
of
make
it.
a lifestyle.
And the second time, I couldn't do that.
Mhm.
I mean, just being honest with myself, my mom had nothing to do with the second time or the
Right.
third time
Mhm.
or the life sentence when I went to prison.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, even though it didn't alter my life at that point, it altered my thinking. At least I became accountable to myself. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the things I did was because somebody else forced me into it. I did drugs because somebody forced me into it. I did them because I wanted to,
Right.
and that was my easy escape.
Right.
So accountability is huge, and so you have to have you can have two ways of thinking. I'm sorry, am I going on too?
Oh, you're
No, that's
fine.
perfect. That's
No,
perfect.
go ahead.
You can have two ways of thinking,
Mhm.
and we all know a lot of addicts are great at putting the blame on somebody else.
Right.
You see it in prison all the time. I'm not here. I'm not guilty. You know,
We hear it all the time.
and
I
I'm
didn't do
telling you, I'm telling you, I've hardly ran into a not guilty person
Yeah.
in prison. I have ran into one.
But
or
there
two,
are a
but-
few, right? But we're
Right.
very familiar with that.
And
Yes. Yes.
For a person like me,
Yes.
I'm sorry, it irritates me when I hear somebody always using the excuse that it was somebody else that
Yeah.
did something to them.
Right.
So it's, it at least made my life accountable. It didn't change it, but I mean, there was something in me that
Right.
just
Yeah.
always had to come up with the conclusion that, hey, this is your fault.
Yeah.
And that allowed me years later, I guess, maybe to hear God's voice. It did help me along the path.
It opened you up for
Yeah. Men are in a tough culture. They always have been.
Right.
No matter what the age has
Right.
been.
Right.
It's a very tough culture.
Right. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
We're gonna conclude this. So I kind of want to conclude with you, Darnell, on the process of forgiving, because as you said, a lot of things happen in your life with mom and being raised by a single parent, and maybe not going to prison, but being involved in the system, right? And I know for me, forgiveness is a process. Just because I make the act of forgiving. I'm like, when I see that person, I'm going to be decent and nice to him. I may not have great feelings towards him, right? But the feelings come later. So I just want, very briefly, let's try to do it in less than a minute and a half. Just step me through the process of forgiveness. What's the process?
I think you hit it right on the point.
Right.
Like it's going to take a little bit of time.
Right.
And it starts with yourself. It starts with that isolation mode. As we know that, like when you're in a prison system, let's say you do a little bit of time, you have time to reflect on some of the things that hey, maybe I can forgive myself, or I can forgive that person for the position that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we look at, not to sound fancy or nothing, but the root cause analysis, like how you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Was it because of my family? Was it because I was a single parent, or maybe my dad was on drugs, or he was on, did all this stem to me making the decisions that I made
Mm-hmm.
that put me in a situation?
Mm-hmm.
But then you can't blame that background. You have to blame yourself because you made the choice
Right.
to create the crime.
Right. That's what Glenn was saying. Right.
And that's
Right.
exactly. So
Right.
I mean, I can't really touch too much on it because
Okay.
he hit it right on the money.
Okay.
But what I can say is that, like how we said, it's not going to be, it could be an overnight thing. It could be something that God reveals to you.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something that God instructs you to do.
Right.
And when God instructs you to forgive someone,
let it go and forgive. You
that's
got to do
hard.
it. You got to do it.
And, the greatest thing is that peace that comes from your heart,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the courage to do it.
And the courage to do it. Right.
And courage comes from the heart. So when you have courage
Mm-hmm.
to forgive someone,
Mm-hmm.
it's incredible. Like I said, when I go and I speak with many of the residents, the inmates
Mhm.
from Salinas to California City to all the prisons,
Mhm.
is if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change, by Wayne Dyer. And I think that's incredible because sometimes it's hard to change. Like you can have that anger and animosity and say, when I get out, I'm gonna be this person, this person that's aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can say, you know what, I'm gonna use all the negativity
Mm-hmm.
to push forward and grow and become the better version.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. Well
So-
said, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up. You heard from, I call them our experts. We have our guest Glenn, and we have our,
I almost broke down.
That's a whole other story.
No.
You did great.
Yeah,
And we have our
Yes,
co-founder Darnell.
Right.
So great discussion, guys. I love the answer, and I think you guys hit it right on the head. So thank you for being with us,
Thank
and
Thank
please
you.
tune in for our next discussion. We try to put these video blogs up every week with an interesting topic. We have great experts in the field of prison and prison ministry, and you don't want to miss it.
And please donate.
Oh, we are a nonprofit, so
MIT.
yeah, we are a nonprofit, so yeah, Darnell threw that in if that's on your heart. We are our whole program of supporting these men and running them as
Thank
ministry.
you.
That's good stuff.
It all comes from donation and a lot of hard work. So again, thank you guys for tuning in.